Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our 6 a.m. Pacific Time morning devotional using 365 Science of Mind, a year of devotional writings from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And thank you for letting me know where you're tuning in from. It's so wonderful to watch everybody joining on Facebook Live in 3 locations and YouTube. We've been, some of us, traveling together every day since before the end of last year and are committed to keep on going through the end of the year using this guide. The idea of the daily devotionals is to tune in to our spiritual identity first thing in the morning, and then to embrace the day from that place, because the days and the world have a lot of beauty and conflict and this and that require that we are in a place that is centered to be able to deal with it. And so the readings from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, give us something to chew on, to think about. Now, if you've been reading along the book, I have both the hard copy and the Kindle version. You'll notice that Dr. Holmes liberally spreads scriptural quotes and sometimes poetry. And sometimes I wonder why he's used the quotes he has, because almost all of them require explanation. Today, on the 8th of March, he has quoted Leviticus 26, "You shall eat your bread to the full and dwell in your land safely." And that's a lovely sentence all by itself. However, it comes from a chapter in Leviticus that's all about the contrast between reward for following God's law and punishment for not. This particular part is about what good things will come when you follow God's law. And then it's followed by a series of quite frightening threats. And so I am reluctant to use Leviticus as a guide. It takes a tremendous amount of mental gymnastics to turn it into a metaphor, and of course we can do that. Of course, we can turn it into meaning this. First of all, let me abandon all images of a man, an imaginary man in the sky called God. Forget about that. Especially don't teach children that. A man who has regional interests and regional loyalties and seems somewhat egotistical and frightened of the world and demands a very specific obedience. Abandon that. And think instead of just the sequence of events that take place when I bring loving kindness into play, or I can say when I align with I'll call it my spiritual nature, what happens? Then let me compare that to when I delete loving kindness from my actions, I remove it, or I can say I go against my nature. What happens? That method of observing, call it methodical approach to watching the relationship between the filter through which I observe the world and how it plays out. Now that I can teach children. Look what happens when you share. And it doesn't mean I will have a control over the world or control people or world events or the weather or who hires me for a job, but it will drop a deep anchor into my being and teach me to have a feeling of agency and place in the world. So I can demystify it and take superstition out and take the man in the sky out of it and look instead at my journey. And then this chapter or this reading today can help me because now it's talking about my right for self-expression, and my right is your right. Now I'm in a different place. Now I have to read carefully. It is right to enjoy life. Yes. It is normal and natural to desire a more beautiful life. It seems to be in us. Not only my life, but your life. It's natural for me to desire your life to be beautiful. Then he quotes Jesus of Nazareth. So if you are a Christian, then this will have meaning. I am come that they might have life and they might have life more abundantly. That's in the chapter where Jesus describes himself in using the image of a shepherd and a keeper of the. It's a very pastoral image and much loved in the Christian world. It's the idea of being at home in this universe. For people who are not Christian, we can apply it as a metaphor. In the unity of humankind with spirit, there can be no lack or limitation. Each of us is entitled to all that our Father has. So now I want to leave that imagery of a man aside for a moment. I want to approach it less by anthropomorphizing the divine and more by this very natural system of living and observing. So I can say each of us is entitled, or each of us is an expression of our originating power. I love that. The realization that the divine is an infinite source is dawning upon our awakened thought. Oh, to have awakened thought to me means what we're doing right now. Pausing, contemplating, thinking about it, reframing, recontextualizing, questioning, and then sitting quietly to think about it. How does this work in my life? How does this make me a better person? This impartation of livingness to everything is the very nature of the divine who gives. Selfishness enters only when our good would exclude or hurt others. Nothing is selfish if it is done from the viewpoint of expressing the hidden splendor in all things, revealing it through all things and in all occasions. This is why sometimes I like to say in my prayer, for the good of all and the harm of none. I think about it in terms of what is the implied spiritual ethics of our way. Can I just have anything I want? No, most certainly, even Dr. Holmes says, most certainly we cannot, because some of us might want something that belongs to another person, and that is not okay. So even though the infinite lays itself open before each one of us, I must be wise to not go after that which is harmful, destroys the environment, takes away from other people, diminishes the right and mobility of minority groups, because I am part of all that is, and I must be quite responsible with how I use the infinite resource that has been laid down in front of me to choose from. We have a right to be filled with joy, to desire the good things of life, and to expect manna from heaven. Here again, another biblical phrase. I'm not going to unpack that one right now. We have the right to expect good from every source. But at the same time, we must know that good is not for us alone. So then our way at the Centers for Spiritual Living, is to embrace the highest good for all. So it's an endless journey of investigating. How do I live? How does that impact life? How am I using my creative power? How am I using my choice? You see, on the surface, our teaching looks like positive thinking, but it's quite demanding, actually. Just one layer deeper, our teaching is about living harmoniously, responsibly, cooperatively, with kindness. Oh my goodness, and it takes quite a lot of maturity, I think. At least for me, I have to rededicate myself every day. And I'm glad you're here with me to help keep me on the, how's the phrase, the straight and narrow. So I invite you to breathe in with me today as we take these thoughts into prayer. Affirmative prayer. We call it spiritual mind treatment. First, breathing, letting the shoulders relax, sensing the world around us. And then directing thought, we say inwardly. There really isn't an inward compared to an outward, but we understand the meaning of it in my own consciousness. There is one source, one power, in and through all creation, infinite, perfect, meaning nothing missing, beautiful, the source of all design, of all pattern, of all possibility, the perfection that is underpinning all things, spread out like a banquet of possibility. And I am part of that and live from it and express in it, as does each person on this call. So today I tune into that as my true nature, and I do so for the good of all and the harm of none, using the creative direction of my mind as if releasing doves from a cage, spreading beauty, spreading kindness, knowing peace. Today I express myself with joy and enthusiasm. I want to live more abundantly, and I accept that as a possibility for my life and for everybody else. I want to look more deeply into the heart of all people, finding there the pulsation of the heart of the universe. I want to penetrate all externals and reveal the divine presence hidden there. I know in my self-expression of the abundance of the whole There is nothing mean or little, nothing separate from the all good. I lift high the cup of my faith and hope. It overflows. I know that everything I do is blessed. And every good I seek finds an expression through me. Today, every person I meet, I declare, is the living Spirit expressing. Today, I rejoice in everything that the living Spirit, life itself, does. As I establish this atmosphere within me and around me of peaceful celebration, I gather into my awareness the people of the world where armed conflict is raging. I bring them into the tender heart space in my mind. And today I give thanks. I give thanks for those who have safe passage out from danger into safety. I give thanks for first responders and those who help. I give thanks for those who refuse to succumb to hatred. And in my giving thanks, I raise them. I raise them and I acknowledge the inspiration that they have in my life and awareness that causes me to act, to learn, and to move. And so it is. After the broadcast, I just take a moment to sit without any agenda, perhaps for 5 minutes or maybe an hour. And I invite you to do the same before I jump into the day's activities. And I thank you, the dozens of people who share these broadcasts, and for taking the time to be here with us every day. Have a blessed day.